When thou seest my mockery, thou shalt not be too pleased with me. Thou shouldst sit back and relax and laugh at everything you see. For mine is a no-no by most standards in debate. But do not fear, my friends and fools, for I am one who lives on faith. From the moment of my birth, I've been taking chances. The doctor delivering me pulled out a very sharp object, attempting to cut off a piece of my childhood. So I peed on him. When I was 16, a police officer stopped me for speeding. When he looked at me and he said, "Son, you knew that you were going 75 and a 40? I said, "Really, officer? I could have sworn I was going at least 90. Yet he gave me the ticket. Last fall, I asked this girl out, despite the fact that everyone told me not to. Let me tell you something. She rejected me. Actually, she didn't flat out reject me. She just said, "I don't know." Yeah, so whenever people came up to me and they said, "Hey, Josh, you going out with Brooke?" I said, "Oh, yeah. But she doesn't know. As Al Pacino so eloquently states in the movie, "Scent of a Woman," hoo-ah! That's it. That's all that he says. Because you see, Pacino's character, that of a middle-aged blonde man, achieves his own sense of happiness and fulfillment through the countless risks that he takes, like driving the automobile. He figures, hoo-ah, what the hell, I have nothing to lose. And it is in that rebellious spirit that embodies the very essence of risk-taking, recognizing that the greatest adversity can often yield the greatest payoff. But even without knowing the final outcome, we must strive to take the chance, or we will never know what might have been if only ... And to achieve success in filling in that blank, we must first understand the nature of risk taking, second, recognize the difference between positive and negative risks, and most importantly, have the courage to then seize the opportunities. Taking chance after chance. This has been the story of my life. Risk after risk, failure after failure, but eventually, success after success. And if there's one thing that I've learned, it's that despite the setbacks, the risks are all worth the effort. Risks, they're a part of everyday life. I'm sure you've all had an experience where you needed to take a risk. Whether it's lying to your parents, saying, no, the test was out of 40. Or coming clean about your bad grade and accepting the punishment. This is Whoa by Josh Gavin. Author Miles Hodges, in his book Living by Faith, states that we are currently faced with a dualistic society that, on the one hand, copies out of fear of the unknown, and on the other hand, takes risks simply for the sake of taking risks, causing meaningless and often deleterious outcomes. Okay, for example, going to the Phoenix Zoo, rubbing deer's blood all over your head, jumping into the lion's pen, kicking the lion's club, and then saying to yourself, "Yeah, I'm going to take whatever happens like a man now." Sure, it's innovative, but obviously not a worthwhile risk. No, it is reconciling DNA with a more sane approach to risk-taking that will enable us to embrace the risk and ultimately enjoy the payoff. I've often been confronted with such risky ventures where the final outcome was anything but a sure bet. At the beginning of the school year, my friend and I were looking for a duo in a competition for the national circuit. We wanted something that would be both funny and original. We ended up doing the Monica Lewinsky-Linda trick tapes. When I first told my friend about the idea, his initial reaction was reminiscent of a dog being neutered by a beautiful female nurse. He was scared and bewildered, but at the same time, strangely attracted to the idea. Suffice it to say, my friend and I took the risk and ultimately reaped numerous benefits to our risky endeavor, proving that once again, hoo-ah is the only way to go. Before I go on, I need to sit down for a second. My back is killing me. This isn't that bad, is it? I mean, sure, it's a bit unusual to do in an oratory final round, but is it wrong? Meanwhile, all the competitors are shaking themselves, well, at least I've got a chance of winning the national championship. The judges are saying is they're ruled against us, which, by the way, as far as I know, there isn't, I promise. Charlie Lonnie's back there wondering what the hell Ted Dancing is, and my coach is sitting in the audience saying I had nothing to do with it. Folks, I'm simply trying to make a point, albeit a small one, but a point nevertheless. Of course, this really isn't that big of a deal, but even this tiny little symbolic risk has many people in this auditorium feeling quite uncomfortable. But who I say? Who? And to be honest, I was getting kind of tired anyways. Now, it is crucial to understand the difference between taking positive risks of enhancing well-being of one's life and taking negative risks that ruin relationships and lives. So I've compiled a short list of positive and negative risks that might enhance your judgment of what to do in certain situations. Okay, for example, running friends go up to Pope John Paul II, yelling, "Give me that," as he proceeded to remove his hat, give him a knuckle nuggie while screaming, "Who's your daddy, Pope, huh? Who's your daddy?" Bad risk. Refusing to give your seat up on a bus simply because of the color of your skin, knowing very well that you will be punished for doing so. Rosa Parks, that's a great risk. A man dressing up in women's lingerie, wearing lipstick and eyeshadow, while dancing in Ricky Martin music, eating caviar, reciting Emily Dickinson poetry, as his fiancée shows up with the in-laws. How many times do I have to tell you that's a terrible risk? Spending your meager life savings on a venture that you believe in, while everyone around you calls you and your idea a failure. I think that Walt Disney would tell you that it's a wonderful risk. I hope you understand what I'm getting at. Risks, they should be taken with thoughtful determination and not carelessly detrimental to you or your interpersonal relationships. Heed the advice of Dr. Dean Martin, who stated, "Don't be stupid. It just wouldn't be smart of you." So far, we have seen that taking risks can mean success in daily life. In some cases, however, taking a risk can save a life. In 1945, at the end of the Second World War, legions of Jews who had been confined in concentration camps were sent on death marches. Jews would walk hundreds of miles without shoes and food until they met their untimely deaths. One such Jew, a 16-year-old girl named Evelyn Greenblatt, walked that death march through the winter of 1945 to Czechoslovakia. Her foot was infected, her body was sore, death seemed imminent. One day while marching with the others, Evelyn successfully escaped their highly guarded line and hid in a nearby forest. Consequently, she also escaped the destiny of millions of other Jews. She was later found by a squadron of American soldiers from whom she received liberation. Evelyn Greenblatt, my grandmother, believed in herself enough to run away from the same people that had killed most of her family. To this day, that reminds me that although the Nazis had killed most of her family, they could not kill all of her family. That although the Nazis had killed many of her people, they could not kill all of her people. Had she not taken this risk, I probably wouldn't be here today, telling you her story or any other story. So I say, hoo-ah, Nana. Hoo-ah. Okay, here's where I stop. Here's where I say, hoo-ah to you. No more gimmicks, no more fancy articles, just me. You want a solution? As trite as it might sound, in this case, you are the solution. Each of us make a decision to take a chance. Make a decision on the trivial issues of who to date, what forensic speech to perform, or the more important issues of fighting prejudice, believing in yourself enough to run away, or simply believing in your dreams. You have to be willing to say to yourself that yes, you can take a risk if it will better your life. Because remember, the greatest hazard in life is to risk nothing at all. I recently came across an anonymously posted article on the internet entitled, "Risk-Taking is Free." It epitomizes what the very nature of risk-taking is about. The poem reads, "To love is to risk not loving in return. To hope is to risk despair. To live is to risk death." But the hazard must be taken because the greatest risk in life is to risk nothing at all. The person who risks nothing does nothing, has nothing, is nothing. So with these words in mind, I say to you, now that you have heard my speech, I hope to others you may teach to take a chance without regret, to laugh at fear with pride, not fret. If there's something you might believe in, don't go on dreaming, just take hold. And when you do, my friends, you'll find that risks may bring rewards in time. Hoo-ah!